Hello and welcome to the Production Pod, a place where we meet and talk all things creative production, from TV broadcast, commercial and film, a place where we unite with industry professionals. I'm Craig Reeves and have worked the world of post-production since being introduced to the industry in 2006, and have since played a role building a virtual post-production facility named Pickled. Today we're chatting with Zoe Goodwin Stuart ACO, a camera operator who's worked across the board from daytime drama, primetime dramas and Netflix series. And you may be wondering, what does ACO stand for? Well, Zoe, hi. What does ACO stand for?
Associated Camera Operators is the shortened version, and it's the nationally recognised association of all camera operators from this country. There's an American one called the Society of Camera Operators, and the British one is the ACO. So I'm a very proud member, and you have to be inducted, which was quite exciting for me.
So what kind of criteria do you have to fulfill to get the ACO status?
So it's normally 5 years of operating credits, and then also you get sponsored, nominated by a fellow operator who thinks that you deserve to be recognised, and then you need 2 subsequent operators to sort of vouch for you, and then I think I had to write a personal statement kind of thing. So, but it was quite exciting. I'm only at the time I was only the second woman to be inducted, so it was a pretty big deal. And Lucy Bristow is the first, and kind of we all worship the feet of Lucy Bristow. She was a pioneer. So she's was the first, then me, and then there's another girl called Alana Garrard, who's a steady cam operator. And yeah, I mean, it just keeps getting bigger now, so it's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't realise you were the second. That's really powerful stuff. So what I suppose a lot of people who maybe aren't on set or know much about the production life. If someone said, I'm a camera operator, or what is a camera operator? I'm guessing it's an obvious one. You're somebody that operates a camera, but there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, I guess depending on what you're filming, if it's a drama, you may have more than just one of you working the camera. So what is the day-to-day of you specifically as a camera operator?
I think there's a lot of balls in the air, literally. It's not just about pointing the camera. I think actually the pointing the camera bit is the easiest bit of my day-to-day, if I'm honest. It's sort of a negotiation process and a collaborative process with not just my own department, which can be a skeleton crew. It can be just me, a focus puller and an assistant. It can be just me and a camera assistant. It all depends on the job. But if you're looking at kind of the broader scale, so jobs that I've been on, which we've talked about, Vera, Netflix shows, The One, things like that, they tend to be a much bigger crew. So it will be myself as the operator. Obviously, my head of department will be the cinematographer or DOP, director of photography. And then I have a wonderful focus puller. All of them I've ever worked with have saved my bacon many times, who are getting every shot that I'm doing sharp. If you understand anything about lenses, then different focal distances create different depths of field, which means that if you've got someone walking towards you and you need that to keep kept sharp, I can keep the frame totally still and it look beautiful. But if they're soft and they don't look, and you can't tell who they are, or can't see the lips moving, then the shot is pointless. They're the unsung hero. SAC, the focus puller, is the unsung hero of the camera department. And then they are supported then by a camera assistant or clapper loader, who, between the two of them, sort of make sure that all the camera kit is there, ready for the day, ready to go. Obviously does the clapper board, a very famous clapper board, and loads the camera with whatever it may be, whether it's HD or film. Fledgling starting in the HD world, it was tapes and all sorts of different concoctions, and now more recently, obviously, SD cards and CF, stuff like that. And then you usually, hopefully, on most jobs, you get a trainee who is young, keen and excited and learning, and make sure all our batteries are charged, keeps us well oiled with cups of tea and coffee. And then not just that, that's just with the camera. If you just imagine the camera and those people, then I will have a grip and a grip assistant who will help me achieve the shots that we need. So if a director's saying, I want the camera to travel from there to there, or go up, down here, or whatever it is, or pan around to here and go from that to that. How are we going to achieve that? Are we just going to achieve that on a set of legs and a head, or do we need a crane? Do we need a jimmy jib? Do we need a remote head? Do we need track? All those kind of things. So you're constantly collaborating with lots of different people and fighting fires all over the place, and also doing it under really time constrictions.
Yes. So I guess creatively then, you're on a big shoot, one of a rather scalable team. Creatively, what could you say that you are offering the production? I mean, where are you putting your stamp on the production as the camera operator?
I think the most important thing for a camera operator is when you go in and you say it's a scene with a few people, there's some dialogue and there's some moving around. Make it simple. They're moving around a room, someone comes in, whatever. But the drama, for me, I think it's about conveying the drama that the director and the script and the cast are portraying. So, depending on the show you're on, it might already be storyboarded. Therefore, the shots are already sort of aligned, and you've done your prep, and we know where the lights are going to go, and we know how the actors are going to move, and then we put it to the floor. We will watch a crew rehearsal. The crew will all come in from every department and watch the actors move around the space and perform the scene. And then it's about trying to capture exactly what is on the page and exactly what is in the director's head, which is very difficult sometimes. And you have to find a way to convey your own ideas and thoughts as to how to achieve those things. I'm a tool. I feel like I'm a tool in giving the director and the production what they want. My job is to provide the shots, but provide them with enough empathy and understanding of the story that's trying to be told, whilst negotiating all of the other things. So they'll come in and say, I want this shot, I want them to go to there, I want you to do this, I want you to move from there to there. Can you go down to their feet because they're walking? All of that kind of stuff. That's physical job. My physical job is capturing it with the frame and finding beautiful frames and nailing those all the time. And that can't be always the case. That's why we have rehearsals. That's why we practice, and it could be on a wheeled head, which means you're sort of away from the camera, or with the camera on a wheeled head, on a geared head. But I think for me personally, it's having the dialogue with a director of photography, cinematographer, and your director, and trying to work out what they like, what they don't like. Do they like low shots? Do they not like low shots? Do they like big wide shots? And finding their tone and finding their voice and being that conduit.
Well, I guess. I mean, you said about fighting fires. I imagine, you've got a lot of opinions on set. Director of photography, director. I imagine
just a few.
Can get pretty, well, I suppose is heated the wrong word? I mean, it's expected, right? I mean, everyone wants to get the best out of the situation.
Everyone has their own opinion. And also what I was taught when I was starting, it's all subjective. Everything is, what you like might not be what they like. What the director I like and the DOP like might not be what production like. Do you know what I mean? You've got you're fighting fires all over the place. Drama is very different to the commercial world. The commercial world is almost like by panel decision. You've got 100 people behind a monitor. The client, everyone's deciding what they want. So you're sort of just waiting there going, okay, I'll get told what to do, which is fine because they're the ones putting the money in. With drama, I think it's a much more collaborative process. Things heated, I mean, there's a core environment, I think, where things you can have a great job where everybody gets on, and a 12-week job can go like that, and it'd be a laugh and it'd be great, and you're all away from your families and you're really enjoying what you do, and it feels very collaborative. And you can get other jobs which feel like you're wading through treacle because for some reason the personalities on set just don't gel that much. But that's part of what I was sort of saying earlier. It's almost 80% ability, 20% personality some of the time, because and it can flip really quickly. You can just do a really simple job just to get the day done because you're trying to stop your DOP having a heart attack because the director keeps changing 30 seconds, or her mind every 30 seconds, and everything starts changing, and lights need move. I'm moving. It can just be a nightmare. So there is a little bit of I don't like to use the word manipulation, The ego massaging that goes on to sort of try and keep on an even keel. That's what the first AD is for. That's what the first assistant directors for. They're the ones that rein us all in when it all gets a bit too creative.
Yeah. You mentioned about having blocks, 12 weeks here and there. Is it quite a nomad lifestyle? Do you find yourself working all around the country, or is it like one specific place that you find yourself returning to?
It is a bit, actually. It's become more so over the last few years. I mean, people that are listening don't, but I'm sort of based in the Midlands, and that's where most of my work sort of started. So I ended up being here, and then suddenly I'm from Wales, and then I was getting all my work in Wales, so I was going back home, and then jobs from London started calling, so I was going down there, and I've been to Cornwall and up to Northumberland and the Scottish borders and all over the place. Yet to travel out of the country, but hoping that will happen sometime soon. But it is nomadic, and it's hard on on personal relationships and all that kind of stuff. But I've been lucky enough to most of my jobs in my latter career to be Monday to Friday. So you come home and the weekend and everything. But there were times when it was 11-day fortnights and all that kind of stuff, and you were away for a long periods of time. But it's part of the fun of it, as well as being part of the worst bit, I suppose, if you want to put it like that. It's a plus and minus. You get to see beautiful parts of the country, film in beautiful parts of the country, and meet new people, work with new crews. And also you get to sort of form these bonds with people when you're under the cosh and you're with these people for 12 weeks. It is one of those things you kind of put up and shut up and get on with it. And hopefully have this great camaraderie by the end of it. And most of them, I have to say, hand on heart, most of them have been fantastic and great people and a really good laugh. And that's actually what I'm missing in lockdown more than anything is the bands.
Yeah, listening in, we are amidst, again, the coronavirus. A few of these recordings have been, started in the coronavirus. And I suppose we'll touch on maybe how it's going to change a little bit later. So what you mentioned about like really great crews and what have you. What would you say has been your favourite project to work on? Because you mentioned Vera earlier, but name drop some of these shows that you've been a part of, and what's been your favourite?
I mean, from the beginning, anything sort of made by BBC Birmingham's always been close to my heart, because that's where I started, it's where I learnt my craft, and some of the people that I've worked with there have gone on to do incredible things. And I learnt from, Joe Russell, just to name one, who's now, probably, he won ACO Operator of the Year this year. He did Killing Eve. His CV is vast. Ed Clark's another one, that worked with both of us on In the Night Garden and has gone off to do incredible things. And I've learned from so many people there. So that's got a definite soft spot for me, those years when I was coming up through. But more recently, I did a job called The One for Netflix, which was just brilliant. Such a fantastic DOP, cinematographer, Rory O'Brien, who just sort of guided me in a way that, I was going on this set. I didn't know anybody. I think they took a bit of a punt on me. A production manager got me in, who I used to work with at Holby. So it was, I didn't know anybody. I got on set and half the old casualty crew were there, and it was all the old Welsh faces, and they, it was a great bunch, a great team to work with. They couldn't do more for me. It was fantastic to go in as a second camera to also a DOP who is very well respected and does phenomenal work. It was really good fun, and they were fab. And yeah, the Vera crew. I mean, going up to Northumberland, going up to Newcastle was like being in Wales. They're all very. I don't know how they're going to cope after coronavirus, because they're all very huggy and
yeah.
If I took it up there like a duck to water, I think they were another great bunch. Again, these kind of jobs, you get them through word of mouth or through recommendation, or a director's gone on, their career's gone exponentially up, and they want to bring you with them. So you don't know what you're going to get when you get there, and you sort of go in there on your first day and you try and prove yourself, and people are giving you a bit of side eye and trying to work you out. And as a female operator, it always feels a bit other, because they haven't ever seen one. A lot of people haven't seen one, and that's just the fact. So when you go in there and sort of you feel doubly pressured, I suppose, a little bit to perform and do the job and have the banter, get on, but actually, focus on your job. And they were great. They were a lovely bunch up there, and they sort of worked me out sort of post lunchtime, I think. and,
yeah.
So those two jobs have been brilliant in my recent future.
Yeah. So what you touched on there is, who you know, and I guess a lot of in the production world it is who you know. What would you say your journey, and specifically as a female operator, what would you say, or how what has been your journey from start to kind of now, and what challenges do you think being a female that you've faced, through each process and each stage?
Well, at the beginning, I had no idea that this was what I was going to do. I started doing an interior architecture degree in Birmingham. That didn't go very well. But I've always been a really keen photographer, and my dad gave me his old SLR camera, 35mm SLR Canon when I was a kid, and used to mess about with that, and sort of had a bit of an eye then, so kind of flicked through the brochure at university, like, what else can I do? I don't want to disappoint my parents, not get a degree. And TV and film production was the course, and I specialised in television and media production was the first one. It was fine. I sort of skipped a year because I'd already done a year at degree. And then a really great lecturer called Patrick Favell, who used to work for Maverick, had an email from BBC Birmingham saying, we're looking for a camera trainee for DL and Pasco, which was a drama at the time. Do you know anyone that would be interested? So he put it up on the notice board, and I was the only person that knocked on his door, apparently, out of 120 students. So
wow.
Got sent.
Awesome.
To Drama Village and got interviewed and got the gig. So that was my first. I think it was my summer between sort of the end of my second year. I must have done all right because they asked me back the third year. But sadly, I needed to get my dissertation in, and it was all a bit up in the air whether I could do it. Finally, the dean of the university allowed me to. So I started earning pretty much in the May. Went to a paid job. I wasn't paid the year before because I didn't know anything. That's how they said it. Didn't need to pay anybody.
yeah. They get away with it, don't they?
Just fell in love with it. I fell in love with it the first year and went back and then, tried to learn as much as I possibly could. Shooting on 16mm film, which was incredible. Learned to load magazines, learned different stocks. Went down to Kodak to see the films being processed. It was amazing, and went to some incredible locations. Getting in with that camera department was massive because then they took me on other jobs. Other focus pullers that came in to cover other people started taking me on other jobs. So I started doing some movies and some features and some other stuff as a loader. Stepped up from to being a loader. Did that for a few years. Then I got a phone call from a man called John Boyce, who runs a company called Transvision TX, and he'd found my name on the Screen West Midlands, which used to be Screen West Midlands. I don't know what it is now.
Creative skill set or something like that.
And rang me up and said, "Oh, look, I've seen your CV. Would you like to come and do an HD job?" And back in the day, then I sort of flirted with a bit of video, so I've done a bit of Doctor Who and stuff. And you couldn't get an HD job for love nor money because no one really knew what they were doing, and they didn't trust you who didn't know what you were doing, so you couldn't get a job. And then, John Boyce took a punt on me and got me in the Night Guard and beget itself. I did about 4 or 5 months on that with you, which was great fun. We met. Crazy days of going in and listening to Upsy Daisy and Ingle Piggle get on with their stuff, but it was great. It was a great learning experience. Fibre optic cables, first HD broadcast BBC production ever. Sort of got into this Transvision TX's company. They were looking for someone to go over and cover someone's holiday. I got onto a drama called BBC Doctors, which is a daytime TV production, very, very fast-paced. Nothing. I don't think I could do it anymore. I really don't.
I know a few people that have gone through the Doctors, process, and it just sounds manic.
Yeah, I mean, I think genuinely everyone on set says if you can do this, you can do anything. But anything is easier than this. We shoot 3 to 4 pages of dialogue on something like Vera, 10 on a continuing drama such as Casualty or Holby, and this was 22 to 26.
Wow.
2 cameras all the time. And the reason I took the job, I was a bit iffy about it at first because obviously I was in with some quite big people going off to do big features and stuff like, But I really wanted to operate. I didn't really want to be a first AC. I didn't want to be a focus puller. I'm terrible with numbers. And this was way before the days of a monitor. You know, if you didn't have a monitor, you were running your tape out, you were doing it properly, marking down the actors, feet and inches. I learned in meters and centimeters. You know, it was a big learning curve. So I just didn't feel like that was where I was meant to be. Yeah. So Ed Clark, who I mentioned earlier, was going over as well to doctors, and he was like, you know, you can be an operator there in a relatively short space of time if you knuckle down and learn. And I thought, oh, actually, that might be a way to go. And then, unbeknownst to me, obviously, as the only girl doing it, it took me slightly longer than everybody else. Whether that was by choice of people, I couldn't possibly comment. I don't think so. I think it was just, there certainly wasn't an ability factor that slowed me up, but there was a certain something that people weren't necessarily willing for me to take that next level. But eventually it happened, and started move. As I say, directors move, director of photographies move on. They go to bigger jobs. I won't want to say better, but, you know, bigger, more high profile jobs. Mm-hmm. And if they kind of give you a shot. So I started getting B cameras on continuing dramas, like Holby, Your Casualty, did some Hollyoaks, things like that. And then, I was a freelancer then. So I was A camming at Doctors, B camming on these other shows. And then slowly but surely people they see something in you. And, you know, you have to have a bit of a tenacity, and you have to have a bit of thick skin, and, you know, really try and strive and work hard and prove yourself. And that's fine. And I don't think that's different to anyone. I think everybody has to do that, whether you're male or female. I just think the way it's received on the other side back then was very different. Then necessarily they wouldn't get as a level playing field. And it was weird. It was weird. I never met another woman in the camera department. I mean, certainly not for my first year as a trainee. I think I worked first year, I didn't. Second year, I met one focus puller, and I've yet to work with a female whole field in a camera department. So DOP, me, say, a focus puller. I've never done it. It's never happened. I've never met another.
Are you seeing more females coming through the industry like now, like say starting from the bottom run to come into the industry?
100%, yeah, 100%. We're trying to really encourage from a younger age as well now. So rather than just targeting colleges, I think what's important is to try and target schools, and not just for women, but for black and mixed ethnicity, for people of maybe not at the higher end of a socioeconomic background. You know, people. I didn't know that this was a job when I was at school. I had no idea that people made all these decisions about what goes on your telly. I thought, you know, just happens, doesn't it? It's that magic box in the corner that no one really needs to think about, or in cinema. So, you know, you watch Jurassic Park, you don't think that someone's actually in one of the raptor suits. You just don't think about it. And that's the great thing about it. You don't really want people to overthink it, because it sort of takes away the magic a bit. Yeah. But I think into schools and getting in with younger people and explaining that all the vast array of jobs that are available, whether it be art department, you know, SFX, VFX, makeup, costume, sound, everything. But that wasn't really a thing really for women, but I was doing, and that's not very long ago really. I mean, you know, I'm not sounding like I'm ancient. I'm not really.
Not at all. I suppose. I mean, this is the thing with these podcasts, is that, you know, there's a lot of people. I mean, I went through the college and university process myself, and the only way I really found out about the nuts and bolts of what goes on a production is by working in it. And there aren't many people telling that story back to those people. And, you know, you think a camera operator is one person with a tripod and a camera, and it's not. It's like 7 people. And the same can be said for all departments, you know, specifically in the VFX world as well. You know, you'll have like 5 people working on one shot. It's not just one. It's not the editor's job. There's a VFX job that supplies the edit, and it gets, you realize all of a sudden there's just thousands of jobs available. And I think people need to be made more aware of these. And like you say, specifically with young girls, I suppose, these jobs are available and they can play a part in them.
Definitely. I had some quite, you know, shocking things said to me. You know, I had to look back on this the other day for something for the women behind the camera, and what are the worst things you've ever had said to you? And there's a few that are pretty dark, but I kind of just took them on the chin, I guess, at the time, because there was there's no HR department on these shows that we work on. We're all self-employed. Yeah. You all want to work next job, so you kind of just go, oh yeah, laugh it off and walk away. But now looking back, and also what's brilliant is the younger people that are coming through, the younger girls especially, they're just not taking it. They just won't stand for it. So they'll just call someone on it straight. And I've seen it happen on set. Wow. And I've been like, yeah, I wouldn't have had the kind of the wherewithal to have been able to stand up for myself in that way. But I think there is a younger generation coming through that have the tenacity, they have the ability, and the kind of, you don't need that thick skin. You don't need to be one of the lads. You don't need to play that part. You can be yourself and be physically strong enough and if you're not physically strong enough, it doesn't matter, because you ask someone for help. It's all about much more collaborative now, I think, than it ever used to be. And that's a great thing from all sides.
So the women in film and TV and women behind the camera, they're hashtags that I've seen you post a lot of on your Instagram and Twitter. So your Instagram is?
It's at Zoe GSCam. And that's the same for Instagram and Twitter.
Excellent. So, so give Zoe a follow. What is women in film and TV, and what is women behind the camera? Are they just hashtags? Are they actual groups of people that are, I suppose, empowering women in the industry? Tell us more about those, and possibly more than what I've mentioned.
Cool. I'm quite involved with the one in particular, Women Behind the Camera. I've taken over their Instagram feed once or twice. Basically, they're a group that was set up by 2 female operators and an assistant. And it was basically to formulate a database of women, because when you went to a production and said, when all this like diversity and inclusion started becoming a real thing and a real driving force in getting more women into the industry, the camera department is lackluster. The numbers are low, and they haven't really changed in the last sort of 10, 15 years. So when productions and producers and PMs were coming up and saying, well, where are all these women? These 3 kind of powerhouses decided that they're going to go, well, here they all are, have your pick. So it's everything from directors of photography, camera operators, underwater operators, aerial operators, drone operators, assistants, grips, sparks, or lighting technicians, I should say. Yeah. Everything that is to trainees, DIT technicians, everything to do with what makes a camera tick, they're on there. And at the moment, I couldn't give you the number of how many are on there. But it just kind of blew up exponentially, really. And now they have sort of sponsorship and association with the ACO, with Panavision, with Primetime Network, which is another one, which is sort of a worldwide network of women in all industries. So whether it be within TV, but whether it be costume, makeup, directing, animation, editing, sound mixing, everything. And that's another huge database. And Women Behind the Camera sort of blew up, really. And now it's got the support that it needed from sort of bigger organisations. It's basically just trying to show that we are here. We can do the job. We have been doing the job for X amount of time. You don't need to take a chance on us. We can do it.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it, that has to be its own entity as a thing, to promote that. But why do you think that the industry has been? I mean, maybe this is a massive, stupid question, but why has the industry typically been so male dominated over the years? What is there an answer to that?
I don't know. I think a lot of it's probably to do with where those jobs sort of came from in the beginning, post-war, all that kind of stuff with the film industry going back into the 40s and 50s. It was massively male dominated then. And it's the same everywhere. It's the same in every industry, I think. The patriarchy ran the world, and now that shift is happening. Diversity and inclusion is a huge process. It's so vast, and we've just been starting to get into it now for various webinars and with Ep02 and how we get back to work and things like that, and how we make our industry more inclusive to everybody, not just women, but to, like I said, to black and mixed ethnicities, to LGBTQ, everyone, disability, everything. How to make it a more inclusive society to work in, because it can be done and it should be being done. It's not whether it can, it's whether it's that we should be doing it. But I think, it's, it was always heavy kit, wasn't it? It's all that kind of, it's all a bit heavy, it's all a bit blokey, everything's metal and engineering, and it was just that one of the kind of jobs that women didn't really push for. And like I say, with Lucy and Alana and Aga setting up Women Behind the Camera, it kind of showed the vast age range of people, women that work in the industry, behind the camera specifically, and also that we can all do it. We can all lift stuff. We can all be strong or not as strong as each other. I know guys that can't lift 27 kilo camera. It's nothing against them. It's just one of those things. Some people are good at things and then others aren't. No one's asking you to be a weightlifter. That's not the job. Yeah. The job is much. But yeah, it's definitely, there's a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. There is a long way to go, but change is happening. And there are really, really positive signs that lots more young women specifically want to get into the industry. I'm already part of 2 mentoring programs. I've been doing dissertation questions and things like this for young women studying film and cinematography, questionnaires and all stuff. And they're really keen and they're really smart, and they want to work hard, and they can, and they should be given exactly the same opportunity as anybody else, and they will. Yeah.
So if you're a young woman now and you're looking to get into this industry, or you're not even a young woman and you're a woman and you're looking to get into this industry, where would you point people? Where would you look for inspiration? I mean, obviously the Women Behind the Camera, they've got a website, I imagine. I mean, what channels would you send people to?
There's been actually during lockdown specifically, there's been some incredible webinars and discussions about film and television and how it's made and what goes into it. The ACO is a great place to go to for those. They're all available on YouTube. The same with the British Society of Cinematographers, and also the American Society of Cinematographers. There's been great Q&As with people like Roger Deakins, and Rachel Morrison just did one about Black Panther. There's been some really great talks about, not just about this is where I put the camera, this is why, actually physically how you do that, how you get to that point. So those are great learning, and knowledge is power. Suck up as much information as you can, and we've all got a lot of downtime at the moment. Watch as much as you can, but those Q&As and webinars are incredible sources of information, and not just for now, for in the future. They'll stand the test of time for sure. As a starter for getting into the industry, I wouldn't say that doing a cinematography degree or a film and television degree is the be all and end all. I think if you want to do it, and I know lots of people that have, you don't need to do that. You could start writing letters to production companies. That's how I sort of got my other foot in other doors. Things like when I said about Doctor Who, I was just writing to productions and saying, look, I've been a trainee. I am a trainee. I am a trainee. I want to start. I want to have a go at doing bigger stuff. And you word it better than that, obviously. But it is a lot about tenacity. Like you said, it is about who you know. To a point, there are a lot of great training schemes out there now. Skillset do a great training scheme. Screen Skills do a great training scheme. Guild of British Camera Technicians always did a good training scheme. They still do. There's lots of ports of call, and now with social media, DOPs, directors of photography, camera operators are very open to. I don't want to promote it really as a way, but we're all there. I'm not a private on Instagram for the reason of self-promotion and to help people. So it's one of those ways of really direct accessing people. Ask people's advice, find out as much as you can, pick up a camera. Try and learn as much as you can about just photography, how to frame a shot, what do we do, how does it work, how many people takes, like things I've said, like you said, it's not just one person, a tripod and a camera and a lens. There's a lot more that goes into it. And I think if you're passionate about it and you really want to do it, you'll get there regardless of gender, sexuality, colour of your skin, anything. If you want to do it, you'll get there, hopefully, with the right resources. We can all help with that. And I'm very much for that. So get in touch. I'm happy to give any advice to anybody. If I get 100 emails now, I probably
there might be a delay in the reply. I mean, you say about it's who you know, and I think that gets bandied around quite rightly a lot as well. I mean, it is all about who you know, but I think the point being it's how you get to know people. It's finding the people to know and getting to know them. It's not necessarily a shut case that, oh well, I don't know that person, so I'm not going to ever get that opportunity. Like you've just said, write emails and get to know the people that can give you the opportunity. And that's how you get to know.
Worse than hearing the word no. I mean, it's awful. No, you didn't get it. No, it's not you this time. No, sorry. Or not even hearing a response. I will always respond to everybody that messages me because I remember being that person that was sending out the messages. And I think gone are the days where, nepotism rules and, it's, I'm getting, their son in or their cousin in or whoever it is they want to get into TV. I'd take on anybody's TV and take on anybody, even if they haven't got a CV with anything on it. Someone can show me that they're passionate and that they care and they want to do it and they've got a love of film and television and storytelling and a willingness to work. We work long, long hours. I think that's another thing that people don't really realise is that, the hours are long. And I've had some who I thought would be fantastic trainees come on set that I've really, really fought for. And they've come on set and on the third day, they're like, I can't do it. I'm like, you can do it. You just need to get, you're just not used to doing it. And unfortunately, it isn't for some people. And that's nothing to be sad or disappointed in yourself about because they are ridiculously long hours, silly times a day. And splits, which means you're clawing back an hour every day because you started at 1 o'clock in the morning, and by the next week you need to be on daytime. So, 1 o'clock, it's horrible. But that's part of it. But again, with the camaraderie and everyone around you, you kind of get through it all together. But
like you say, you're seeing beautiful places. You're getting around the country, and also, I suppose, being freelance. I mean, I guess 90% of production professionals are freelance. You'll do a block of 9, 10, 12 weeks, and then you'll probably have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever at home, not working. So I guess the hours that you're, accumulating on the job, you make up for with, time, bit of R&R afterwards.
Yeah, you definitely try as much as you can to have a work-life balance, definitely. And booking holidays is sometimes difficult because, the phone rings and all that kind of stuff. But you do get used to it. It's a different way of life than a lot of your friends have. And sometimes you'll miss birthdays and sometimes you'll, miss events occasionally, but you get to spend time with them at other times. I had the worst I ever had. I had tickets to go and see Madonna and I couldn't get out of it. It was a night shoot, it was 4 cameras. I couldn't not go. So one of those things. But in other ways, you make up for in other ways. You do. Not only are you going away and seeing beautiful places, but you're creating something, and I think that's quite special. And I do miss that sort of creative outlet at the minute. Being part of a team and then seeing that finished product. Some of them are as you think they're going to be, and some of them are better than you thought they were going to be. I know people that will remain nameless that worked on The Bodyguard at the time that thought, "Gosh, this isn't going to do very well," or I don't mind it.
Yeah,
happened. The biggest watched programs on BBC for years. So you never know really when you're doing something, however creative it is. If you're creative, you're never going to be quite happy with it. You're always going to want to tinker with it, but you just move on to the next project and you hope that everyone's happy with your work and you can walk away with your head held high. And that's a lot to do with training and starting off. You just want to put in as much effort as possible and be keen and be happy and enjoy that opportunity. I think that if the first opportunity you get, grab it with both hands, because a lot of people don't get it. And that's what we're trying to change specifically with the ACO as well. We're trying to give people opportunities to get what they want to do, to get to achieve their goals.
Yeah. You mentioned about, obviously we're recording this during the pandemic, the coronavirus. You read the guidelines of now working on set. How do those guidelines look? Are they feasible?
Yeah, I'm laughing about that. In all seriousness, some of it is very tough. Like, I look at shows that I've worked on recently and thinking, how would we achieve that now? I think it is doable. I think there has to be a big shift from production in terms, things are probably going to cost a bit more for productions than they have before, even with less people. You're going to have less people on set because you can't have people in a small space, 2 meters apart, back-to-back working, full PPE. You can't do it. I think hospital dramas are going to be okay. I think they're going to be fine. They've got all the gear.
Yeah, this is true.
We'll bring back scrubs as well from America. That'll work. But but it's, like I say, in seriousness, it's a scary thing because we're all self-employed. We all need to work. But at what point do we put health before risk? And I think that's why it needs to come from the top. It needs to come from, the directives look great. Some of them seem feasible. I've been in conversation with a couple of productions that are starting back up. They're looking at either using some sort of armband system where you're allowed in, color coded. You're only allowed on this color coded area. You're only allowed on this color coded area, and things like that. More monitors for people to watch at safe distance makes sense. In different rooms makes sense. Staying with your own department, that makes sense. There'll be less interaction on set, I think. So, part of what I love about my job is that I get to be with the actors and to work out ways of engaging in their physical activity, their kind of physicality in a scene, what they're going to do, where they're going to move, try and help them find their best side, things like that. But yeah, that kind of interaction, if we're on sort of behind a screen or on remote heads or in another room working off a remote head, will be odd. But it's a new era. I think if we all invest in doing our best to protect each other, I think it should work. It will just be different. It'll be interesting to see how the formats of shows change, because they will have to adapt naturally. The format of a show, I don't know, that uses a lot of Steadicam, for example, will have to use potentially use a slightly longer lens. You're going to have to be 2 meters away from the subject. The actors can't be 2 meters together. So how do you do that? How do they? There's a lot of stuff that will come from scripts and that will come from the pre-production process, I think, and then filter down. So yeah, it'll be interesting in a few months, I think. See what the outcomes are.
There was I don't know where I read it, but there was someone was banding around about isolating the whole crew for the whole duration of the production. Would that be feasible? I don't know.
Funnily enough, you should mention that there's a film that's shooting at the moment in Iceland, and they isolated the entire crew for 2 weeks before shooting. It was a bit like The Shining. They were all in this like weird abandoned hotel, and it's still filming now. It's one of those jobs. Like, I know people that go out and do Death in Paradise in Guadeloupe. It's a very similar situation. You're away from your entire family. You're the other side of the world. You all live in the same hotel, and you sort of get on with it. So I don't know, for things like that, it's some jobs is not going to change, but I don't know whether the entirety of continuing drama or something such as, I don't know, I'm trying to think of one, I don't know, Coronation Street all want to be stuck together in the set for 2 weeks.
No.
And also, it all goes back to liability, I guess, and no one wants to feel like A, they were put at risk, B, they put someone else at risk, or God forbid someone would die, or create, take the pandemic further by spreading it to someone in their family household or whatever. And it will come down to, I think, your own personal preference. I would imagine everyone's going to be tested before they even get on a set. So I think that's the one that'll happen. It's just, if you get it on set, are you going to be covered? I don't know. It's just a minefield. I wouldn't want to be a lawyer in this situation.
No, or an insurance company. So yeah, okay. Well, Well, my last question for you, and you've kind of already, I suppose, touched on younger people coming into the industry, but if you had a time machine and you could give yourself, a younger you, advice coming into the industry, knowing what you've known now, seeing things that you've seen with your own eyes to you, what advice would you give your younger self?
Probably not to take anything too much to heart. I think that's part of my personality anyway, is that I'm a bit emotional. So if someone says something to me just slightly negative, I'll kind of sit on that for a bit. And it's only taken me probably the last 6 or 7 years to finish the end of my day and think, that was the day. That scene was, or the end of that scene, or whatever that was, end of that location, which was a nightmare, whatever it was, just let it go. Because you can dwell on things and dwell on your mistakes, and I wish I could have done that better, or I wish I didn't pick that moment to move the camera, or I should have stayed there. Whatever it is you decide to do, in whatever part of your career you're in, you will make bad decisions and you'll make great decisions, but just don't dwell on the bad decisions or the mistakes too much. And sorry when you get something wrong, and try and be better next time.
Yeah.
And I think I treated myself way too much when I was first learning. I wanted to know everything straight away, and if I didn't, I would have, I was really upset about it. Oh, I should have known that. Well, I never knew it, so how was I supposed to know it? If you know what I mean. So definitely less hard on myself.
That's hard, isn't it? When you're creative as well. Creative people, we are sensitive folk. We don't want we want criticism, but then we don't want criticism. It's hard.
Tell me I'm amazing, and then tell me it's not what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Zoe, it's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been good.
If you're listening, do follow Zoe, and keep up with what the Women Behind the Camera is about, because it's really great, and good luck with all of that.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks very much.
If you want to leave us a message or a comment, please find a way of doing so, and we will do our best to reply. But until the next episode of the Production Pod, stay safe. Bye-bye.